Good evening, everyone, and welcome. My name is Brian Pukier, and I am the chair of the board and president of the Miles Nadell Jewish Community Center. They say that in times of adversity, you find out who are your true friends. Well, 2020 was a difficult year for reasons of which we are all aware, but it is heartening to have found out that the MNjcc has true friends. A lot of them. And those friendships, they run very deep. For an organization that would typically fund its raison d'etre largely from operating a fitness center, where one of its prime spaces is a theater, and for one of whose most appealing virtues is its ability to offer a physical place for a community to gather, well, you would be right to be concerned that a shelter-at-home environment where gyms and theaters are closed, students go to school virtually, and no one gathers anywhere for months might create a serious problem. And it has been a serious problem, one that has challenged us, just like others are challenged. And we are fighting hard, and so far successfully, to make sure that the impact on us as an institution is temporary and that we become stronger for our efforts. We have done so by making programs available online as much as we could and as quickly as we could, by redesigning the ways people access and move throughout the building to facilitate continued access to the building for Paul Penna DJDS and our early childhood education programs, by investing in personal protective equipment and additional sanitizing efforts for those who are still using the physical facility, including teachers and students in our schools. Unfortunately, and this is the one that really hurts the most, by temporarily reducing the number of our employees, by replacing some of our lost funding sources with new ones, including being one of the principal recipients of support from the UJA's emergency campaign for community resilience, by relying to a great extent on newly available government support programs, particularly for wages, and being on the receiving end of many donations from you, our members and community friends. Some of those donations are in amounts that are small, but all of those small ones add up, and each donation makes a difference, and in times like these, more than ever. We've also been attracting larger donations from a number of families and organizations, most notably those led by Miles Nadell, by Freddie Shore, and the Wagner Green family. So you should know, members, that the staff of the MNjcc, they stepped up big time to figure out how to not just be relevant and survive, although we're doing that, but to continue to fill a critical need in the day-to-day lives of those people that we serve. Figuring out how to pivot an organization that relied on physical connections during a shelter-at-home pandemic was not in anyone's job description when they were initially hired. But it became in everyone's job description in 2020. And these successes, we've had many, they haven't come without some real costs. The one which I worry about the most being the fact that we've reduced the number of our employees. That was at least as hard a decision as you might imagine it was. And while we are hopeful that it is temporary, we recognize in the meantime that the stress and economic impact on our staff who have been directly affected by these steps. Well, I do not want to dwell on COVID-19 tonight any more than is necessary. Certainly, all of us have more than enough opportunities to do that on our own. You don't need me for that. But I did want to give you this flavor of how your board has reacted to the realities of the pandemic over the last 11 months. And the reason is I want to leave you with the feeling that you have the confidence that the MNjcc has been taking the appropriate steps to ensure that it has not just survived 2020, but that it is continuing its mission of being a critical hub for downtown Jewish life. Now, in her report later in the evening, Harriet will describe some of our programming achievements from the last few months. I wanted to highlight the anti-racism working group that our board adopted this past summer. The working group is comprised of members of our board, led by Ben Cates, staff, and an outside consultant from the BIPOC community. In the coming weeks, we also plan on adding community members, including Jews of color, to the working group. The purpose of the working group is to help us look critically at our own policies and practices, and to help identify and eliminate any instances of racial inequality, and to provide a forum for ensuring that we are at the forefront on diversity matters in our downtown community. So, in continuing along the theme of knowing who are our friends, I did want to make a special mention of a few individuals who are virtually present with us at tonight's meeting. From the UJA Federation, Adam Minsky, the President and CEO, and Stephen Schulman, the Senior VP Corporate Affairs and Community Relations, are both here. And as I mentioned earlier, UJA came through for us this year with its allocation from its emergency campaign, and we are proud of being its eyes and ears in the downtown Jewish community. Janet Smith and Tanya Faganelli from Live North, the company that manages our fitness center, they are here. Ellie Gembaum, a partner at Siegel LLP, our auditors. David Johnson, our relationship manager at TD Commercial Bank, and they have been incredibly supportive with credit support for the MNjcc, both during normal times, but especially so this past year. Teresa Coutinho from the United Way of Greater Toronto, of which we are continue to be one of their important local agencies. And finally, a special shout out to Jody Shanoff, my predecessor as president of the board of the MNjcc. As some of you might know, this is Jody's final evening as a director of the organization, having done her duty and more as a director for 16 years, 5 of those years in the role of president. The JCC is a better place for having had the benefit of her service, and I am personally grateful to her for her mentorship as a past president. We now have a pre-recorded message from Adam Minsky. I know Adam is here virtually present at the meeting himself, but we have a pre-recorded message from him in which he says a few words on behalf of the UJA Federation.
Good evening, and thank you for joining me. Although the Miles Nadell JCC has a long and important history as the centerpiece for Jewish life in downtown Toronto, I want to begin by sharing my thoughts about your leadership over the past year. First and foremost, I want you to know how incredibly proud I am of what you've done. In the midst of a pandemic, you showcased your true selves as an organization. That truth is one of character and commitment to Jewish life in our city. You showed everyone that even under the pressure of a terrible crisis, you stayed focused on delivering high-quality Jewish programming. You're on the front lines of our community's response, and I admire the way that you've ensured that Jewish experiences continue even as buildings close. You've moved seamlessly to online programming at a time when Jewish living has never been more important. I recently had the opportunity to hear from an enthusiastic participant in your Jewish And program. They're part of the Jewish Foundation's class that you launched in the midst of a pandemic. It's an inclusive and welcoming opportunity for Jewish 101 aimed at anyone interested in learning more about Judaism. I was so struck by the participants' enthusiasm for the program, and that while so many organizations were putting programs on hold, the MNjcc was doubling down on Jewish learning. I share this example because I'm so proud of the way you're prioritizing Jewish programming. When the chips are down, you ensured community members could continue growing in their Jewish identity. And that's something not to be taken for granted. That's why UJA is so honored to support your impact. You're the anchor of Jewish identity building in the downtown core. And so as we begin a new and hopefully brighter year, know that we will continue partnering with you, collaborating closely to nourish a Jewish future in the heart of our city. Congratulations to Harriet and to Brian and the entire MNjcc team, who really showed incredible leadership in 2020, and all the best for the coming year.